so much for joining us.
It's absolutely a pleasure. Thanks so much for asking me.
Oh, I will just explain the setup for you. So you can see me because I've got a camera panned onto me. And then we've
Yep.
got your lovely big screen TV so that everyone in the room can see you.
Hello,
Wave everyone. She can't see you, but she knows you're there. I'll just begin with the acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Menang people. We're so privileged to be able to come here and share stories on beautiful Nungabuja. It's been cared for thousands of years, and it's just such a privilege for us to be able to gather here and do this. I'd like to also acknowledge the traditional elders, past, present, and emerging. Toni, where are you zooming into us from?
Hello, Lisa. I'm at home in Collingwood. It's slightly depressed here because Collingwood has missed the grand final, so everyone is very reserved. But I think we will pucker up enough enthusiasm to give Geelong some support on Saturday.
But it's a solemn day.
It is. It is. We're still recovering from last weekend's loss, but hopefully we'll be right by the day.
Yeah, we'll keep our heads up, our chins up. And how are you finding the touring process?
I actually love it. It takes me about, well, this book was reasonably quick, but it takes me about a year to write a novel and maybe another 5 or 8 months to sort of edit it and get it all polished up. Yeah. So I'm like a hobbit, Lisa, like for nearly 2 years. I'm like sitting in a little cave in my jammies, drinking coffee and hobbling away. And it's then once every 2 years, it's like I emerge.
You've got a sign on the gate saying no admittance except for party business.
Exactly. No admittance except for party business. Exactly. I get a new frock or like a waistcoat. I line up for my second breakfast and off I go. But it's really nice to get out and meet people and talk about the book.
Yeah. And how good is technology? The fact that we can do this is just so fun.
Actually, Albany is just such a beautiful part of the world. I'm lucky enough to be there twice, and I'm forever telling my husband we need to go back. It's just so gorgeous. I wish I was there in person.
Well, John has volunteered to put you up.
John is an old pal, and that would be a lot of fun, I think.
He goes to me, "Why didn't you tell me, Toni? Was this month's book club?" I was like, I didn't tell you. I sent the email out.
He is a delight, and I've known him for a long time. And no, it's great to have friends in all corners of the world.
It truly is. And with all your touring, are you getting any chance to read at the moment?
I have read a little bit at the moment. The book that I really loved is Grace Chan's Every Version of You. I don't know if you've seen that one around.
Yeah.
It's like spec fic, and it's so terrific. Sometimes I feel that spec fic is very heavy with its world building, and you can see all the seams, and there's big info dumps and historical stuff. She doesn't do any of that. It's all woven so elegantly into a gripping story. And I really loved that book.
Beautiful. I've written that down. And what is one of your favorite books of all time? The worst question to be asked, to be fair.
Well, it does change a lot, I have to tell you. I've got sort of a rotating kind of 10 or 20 that I love. At the moment, the one I'm going back to is actually not that old, Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. But just because I guess the film is coming out soon, and I want to revisit that book before the film comes out, but it's a heartbreaker. And it's just the voice. The voice is just exquisite.
Oh God, it made me sob though. I'm very close to my siblings, and
it's really sad. And considering I've given you a spec fic and a sad book, I'll throw in one that just delighted me, another classic. White Teeth by Zadie Smith is definitely on my all-time greatest list, and it's really the book that made me want to write properly, like makes me want to be a better writer. Her ear for dialogue is unparalleled, and she has this lightness even when she's making serious points. It's just a gift, that book.
Excellent, because this is one that's been on my list for forever and I still haven't read it. So now I have no choice but to read it.
You've got to put it up the list, make its way up the list.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a book that inspired you to write?
Well, I was already writing when I read it, but it's the kind of thing that inspires me to write better. I read it and I go, like, I've just got to improve. I just want to write something like half as good. If I write something half as good as White Teeth, I'll die happy. It's a very inspiring book to me.
Do you have like a dream idol author that you just keel over in a dead faint if you met?
Oh, that would be Zadie Smith.
It would be Zadie Smith.
I just think she is everything. She's everything.
Yeah.
She just has this way of seeing characters as people and loving them for all their flaws. And the dialogue is perfect. And I just, her essays are increasingly good. Like, I feel like she writes a lot of nonfiction these days, and I feel like that's kind of taken her focus. And I do read her essays, and it's converting me. She's converting me to being a nonfiction reader, which I'm really not. But if Toni Smith does it, then I do it. And I talk about her so much in my classes when I used to teach creative writing, bringing extracts in and talking about the book and making all my students read the books, that when one of my lovely students, when I taught creative writing at a university here, he and his wife had a baby and they called it Zadie. And I thought that was because I made him read so many extracts in class. I thought that was lovely.
Yeah, what a nod for you. Now, so teaching as well, you've had quite a range of careers.
Yeah, I've done a bit. The teaching was, at the beginning of almost everyone's writing career, you're kind of scrambling to pay the bills and eke out a bit more time to write fiction. So teaching was something I did for a while, and I mentored some writers, and that kind of thing that you did. I had a column in one of the newspapers for a little while. So all that kind of stuff you do to support whatever time you can scratch out to write your novels.
Yeah, wouldn't it be a dream to live in Iceland and get one of those writers scholarship like programs that they do?
Absolutely. All those Scandinavian countries and Ireland, they respect their writers so much, and they give them the support and the time they need to make these masterworks. It's a dream.
They know there's a lot of dreary weather to be got through, don't they?
That's right.
And so we talked about some of your most recent favorites. What about young Toni? What was she reading?
Well, this sounds weird, but I don't think I'm quite old, Lisa. I don't think they had like YA or anything when I was a kid. I feel like I went straight from the Enid Blytons, and I was obsessed with Nancy Drew. And I don't know if you remember this stupid thing, the Three Investigators, like those kind of little kiddie crime books.
Yeah.
Straight to kind of the classics in my teens. I had this mad thing for the Russians when I was a very affected kind of teenager, with reading Dostoevsky by myself, looking for all the
I've got to have that stage.
Extremely performative Russians, but I still like I still like Solzhenitsyn. I still read a bit of Solzhenitsyn. Austen I did not get for an embarrassingly long time. I felt it was very I just didn't see as a young person, I didn't see the genius in it. I didn't see the satire and the wit in it. It took me until I was in my 30s before I finally grasped it. And I'm not sort of one for the histrionic kind of romance stories. I like Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
I liked those kind of more grounded kind of stories. Lord of the Rings, of course, everyone reads Lord of the Rings when they're 16.
I only read it recently. I read them 2 years ago. That was the first time I had actually read Lord of the Rings and Hobbit. And I think I've read them like 4 times since then.
It's
So
a
I came in
cracking
late, but I've come
read.
in hard.
No, it really is a cracking read. Like you look at the size of it and you go, oh my God. But it's absolutely fantastic. And every time I reread it, I get more from it. I see how traumatized Tolkien was by the First World War. I see those battle scenes in a completely different way. I see his fear about the 20th century encroaching and his real reluctance to engage with any kind of technology. Technology is always bad in those books, and the beautiful green bucolic landscape of the hobbits is always the good, and anything with smoke coming out of it is evil. And overall, overridingly, the structure is really magnificent. So yeah, it really does. If any of your members haven't read it yet, it really, I know it's daunting. It takes a good 6 months of your life, but it's very rewarding.
And if you buddy read it with your friends, like I'm doing at the moment, you get to have Hobbit themed catch ups where you eat so much. Yeah.
They were good on the Fang, the old hobbits.
They really were. Yeah. But yeah. So, and what about so you went straight from sort of more of your younger reader through to straight into the heavy hitters.
Yes.
And what access did you have to books growing up? I noticed that you sort of referenced the library as a refuge for Andy, and I wondered if that was something for you.
Yeah. I read the school library, finished that pretty quickly. Mum was always like, I was the odd kid out in the family and in our sort of social group, my parents' social group. But Mum was great about it. Like she would drive me to the library every second Tuesday night and sit in the car smoking and listening to the Trots on the car radio while I went in and chose the books. And she was extremely patient because it was a big decision. You could only have 8 for 2 weeks, so I'd be like weighing them all up. And so she was extremely patient, waiting for me to come out. And they just kind of thought, oh yeah, this is the oddball kind of reader kid. But there was no books in the house or art or music or anything like that. There was only the greyhounds and the going to the TAV and going to the track.
And did you like take your books and read sort of underneath the table kind of thing, or were you like Andy, sort of sometimes taking a flutter?
Oh yeah, no, I was absolutely obsessed with punting as a very small person. And like Andy, I never had any trouble finding a grown up to put my bets on for me. You stand there next to the tote window looking forlorn, and some lovely little old lady will, you smile at her and you'll say, will you put on my 50 cents, on number 3 each way in race 4? And she'll say, oh, sure, love, and put it on for you. Like, there was never any difficulty. Never occurred to me that there would be a difficulty. Every grown up that you asked always helped you out. So no, I was absolutely obsessed with punching as a young person, but luckily I never had a win. Like, you'd win a little bit, but it's when you have a big win, that's when it gets its evil hooks into your soul. So luckily all my wins were minor enough to disappear into consolidated revenue.
And nothing to get you chasing that high.
That's right.
And would you say that sort of some of those experiences of having to put yourself out there in the middle of a room with people that you don't know, would you say that helps you now when you're doing public speaking events and teaching?
Well, I have one of the gifts that I think I had from my upbringing is just this deep-seated, this is going to sound weird, Lisa, but this deep-seated view that I'm really not very important. And like I can talk to anybody at any time, any number of people without any nerves, because I just think half of the people, not everyone out there, not you, but other people, like when you speak in a keynote speech or something, half of them are thinking about their shopping list. Half of them are thinking, I wish, when can I fit in a haircut? Half of them are thinking, you know, what's that funny lump at the back of my at the back of my arm? And by the time people have very full lives, and by the time you're off the stage for 15 minutes, they've forgotten who you are anyway. Like I've always felt that it's not
Not
like
that deep.
no, it's not that big a deal. Like, say I do something really like ridiculous and humiliate myself. Well, somebody else will humiliate themselves tomorrow, and then that'll be old news. Like, I've always felt that it's just not as serious as
That is so healthy. That is so healthy.
like,
Oh, I rethink conversations I have just where I answer the phone wrong.
like I'm doing it all
Like
the
I
time.
skip the welcome to Paperbark bit and just say, it's Lisa. I rethink that.
We all have those moments, and it's just, and you stuff up, it's just not that precious. Like you can, you know, it's completely all right. So I've never felt myself to be I'm not trying to be silly here. Like I look fine, but I've never been one of these women who's felt that heads kind of swivel, and like I feel like I'm just a normal person and nobody I can do anything I want. This is something that is interesting to me now that I'm quite older and postmenopausal, is that I tend to read these articles written by other very smart postmenopausal women saying, oh, I feel invisible. And I'm like, great, I'm invisible. Bring it on. The more invisible, the better. That means I can sneak around, eavesdrop on people, watch what everyone else is doing, do whatever I like, and no one's going to hold it against me. Like I feel an enormous power that comes with that.
Yeah, well, that is the question, isn't it? When people say, what superpower do you want? Some people say invisibility. So
it's good. It's really good for a writer.
Yes. And so you're a writer now. When you were a kid, did you want to be a writer?
I think that
maybe you didn't.
Your group has probably read the book and will be unsurprised to learn that I wanted to be a greyhound trainer like my dad. And I wanted to have the biggest kennel in all of Queensland, like 50 dogs at least. And I had decided, because the greyhounds are not pets, right? They're working animals that live in their kennels underneath the house. And in my dreams of my future, I had an enormous kind of roster so they could all take turns sleeping in the bed with me. So, like, I reckon if you get a decent size, like queen size bed, they're big animals. But if you really squish, you could fit 3 or 4 and me. I don't know if I ever had a husband or any other partner kind of worked into this scheme. But my idea was that I would like make it all fair, so they all had like a chance. Everyone had a night sleeping in the big bed with me.
And see, it was fair. Your partner got a turn sleeping in the roster.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he could have his own bed. Maybe he's a cat person. He could have his own bed with cats in it.
Maybe. Yeah. Are you a dog or a cat person?
Well, I am a dog person, but that's only because I just have not, I think, had any experience or, knew any cats.
Yeah.
But I'm in between dogs at the minute. When you lose one, it just takes
time.
Oh, it takes the wind out of your sails, so it takes a little minute to kind of think about getting another one, but I'm sure I will.
Yeah. And has it always been greyhounds for you, or are you just dogs in general?
My sister and I have always had whippets because we live, well, for example, I live in this converted warehouse that has like 3 flights of stairs, and they're so heavy and they're so sooky, greyhounds. Like they will, if they hurt their foot, it's like, and I could not lift one up and down the stairs. So I've kind of always had whippets, which is just the slightly mini version.
I feel like I've accidentally mistaken whippets for greyhounds before, because since getting my copy of Tenderfoot a few months ago, because you were kind enough to send me a copy, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was looking, had my eyes out whenever I go for a beach walk. I was like, what kind of breed do we have here? But then I just get distracted giving them pats. So, you know, don't know how much
Beautiful
research
animals.
is being
They're
done.
the most gorgeous animals.
Yeah. And how did you find growing up? Because you grew up with a couple of greyhounds as sort of like a hobby. Your parents had them as a bit of a hobby. How did you find
Yeah.
growing up with them and also sort of seeing them in a professional capacity as well as a pet?
Well, as a kid, I loved it. I mean, there's just no hiding it. And I've tried to capture that in the book. Um, it was a very difficult line to walk because it's a really hideous business, hideous for the dogs and for people and for everybody. And I had to make that clear, but I had to also be true to my 12-year-old character, who, as any 12-year-old kid does, adores dogs, thinks that going to the track is the greatest thing ever, and has a genuine enthusiasm and affection for the animals and for the industry as a whole. So both these things have to be true at the same time. And in constructing the character of Andy, it helps that she's wrong about a lot of things. It helps that she is clearly a young person who hasn't figured the world out yet. So being wrong about the greyhound racing industry is just one of the things she's wrong about. So hopefully I can communicate that both those things are true, both the way she feels about it and the truth about the objective truth about the industry as a whole.
Yeah. And have you always wanted to write a story about the industry?
I've never really. I did an interview a couple of years ago on ABC Conversations with Sarah Kanofsky.
Yeah.
And have you heard that? It's like a podcast that they do.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
It was the most in-depth thing I've ever done. Like we talked like her producer called a number of times and we talked for a long time and they edited it right down to that hour. But when that played, my publisher at Hachette, actually Rebecca, kind of rang up and said, have you not thought about setting a book in this world? And I'm like, it doesn't seem very interesting to me, because whatever is your norm, it's just normal to you. It doesn't, you think, oh, no one's going to be interested in that. She goes, oh, people might be interested in that. Why don't you give that a go? So I'll go, okay, I'll give it a go. So it was really my publisher's idea, the whole thing.
Yeah. And have you had sort of the same publisher throughout your career, or have you had a couple of different ones?
I've had a couple of different ones. Yeah, I started with at Text Publishing, who is you would know them. They're a really lovely house that do books by the people I most admire in the world, like Helen Garner, and they had Peter Temple and they had Kate Grenville and just an astonishing list in the early 2000s. And my early books were they're very focused on literary fiction, and my earlier books were a bit more that way. And these days I'm a bit more commercial, so it just seemed to make sense to kind of move to someone different.
Yeah, it is always sort of interesting because obviously we have distributors, but then you have publishers, and they've all got their logos on the spines of books. And it's always interesting to go to your own bookshelves and kind of go, oh, is there an even mix here? Is there a bit of a, a bit of a love for a certain publisher? And I find it quite interesting because I don't notice it as I'm buying books, only, when I'm reorganizing my shelves to try and fit the third row in,
the publishers do I think a really poor job across the board in communicating to readers what they specialize in and what they are really excited about. They know, and when you're when you're really looking at it, you know exactly what each publisher are good at and what really floats their boat and the kind of books they are proudest of. But I don't think they do a very good job in making that easily understood for people. Most readers don't even think to look at the spine. So it's odd.
Yeah, we need a cheat sheet with you walk into a bookstore and they've got it like on an end or something. Look for this symbol if you like this type of book.
It's also interesting, Lisa, because often I get emerging writers, maybe somebody who's finished a manuscript or is starting to think about publication. They've been working on something for a while, and they say, how do I find a publisher? It's a very common question that I get asked. And my question is, well, who is your dream publisher? and they look at me like I've asked them like what's their favorite kind of UFO? Like, what do you mean, what's your dream publisher? Well, the people that you like the most, sometimes I say it this way to them. If your book is published, printed, published, it's on a reader's bookshelf, what other books does that reader have?
Yeah.
Like what other authors do they like? If they like you, not who's the same as you, because I don't necessarily think that's helpful to kind of clump people together. But I think talking about readers' tastes is a really valuable discussion. If a reader likes your work, who else do they like? And who publishes those people? And if you start to keep an eye out for that, you do start to make a kind of a mind map of the interests that different publishers have.
Yeah, that's such an interesting perspective. We haven't had that before. Thank you. And how has publishing books for you changed over the 20 years that you've been publishing books for?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time now. I think it's harder for it's not actually harder to get your first book published.
Yeah.
That's always been difficult, and I don't see that as being any harder now than it was. In fact, maybe now it's a little bit easier to get your first book published than it has in the past. But if that first book is not immediately successful, it's much harder to get your second book or your third book published. They want you to be successful right out of the gate. And if you're not, like before, when I first started, publishers would give you a couple of goes and give you support, and there were ways to kind of help you build a career and build a readership, and there was more patience for writers are developed largely. No one is kind of born knowing exactly what their voice is or exactly what they're going to do, and there's much less patience these days for young people, especially writing better and better books and improving. That's where I think the change is mostly.
And going viral right out the gate,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
absolutely. Yeah. If you've got to do it right out of the gate. And I think had that have been a rule that we had in the past, we would have missed some fantastic writers that we have now.
Yes.
Publishers used to have this idea that, okay, it will take 2 or 3 books for someone to develop a readership or someone to be discovered by the public, but they don't have that patience anymore.
Yeah, there you go. And how would you say your writing process has changed? Because you said it's something that evolves and your voice has changed over time, and the type of genre that you write has changed a little bit as well.
But I'm really unusual in that I jump around a lot.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of the curse that my publishers have to put up with, and booksellers, poor booksellers. So this is a coming of age, historical coming of age. My last 2 before this were family comedies. Before that was a mystery. Before that was a bedroom farce. But that was a historical drama, and then there were 2 rom-coms. So this is not.
You'll never pin me down.
I just genuinely like all kinds of books, all kinds of stories, and I get excited about the idea of trying something and thinking what's the slant I can put on this, and it really can be a nightmare. My poor publishers and booksellers and people doing the marketing are like, how are we gonna we just went out and told people that this is what you do, and now you're doing something else. So I really am sorry for them, but I'm having too much fun to stop.
Sorry, not sorry.
Exactly. Sorry, not sorry. Exactly. That's it.
And that sort of made me go, so it must do it to you when you have to describe your novel as a historical fiction. Does it? Yeah.
Honestly, it's so ridiculous. So this is
sorry, I haven't been selling it as a historical fiction, guys.
No, but this is so funny. So the beautiful people at the Historical Novel Association wrote and asked me to speak at their annual conference in November. And I wrote back and said, I'm honored. Like, they're a great organization with fantastic members and a great conference. And I said, I'm honored. But I think you've made a mistake because this book is set in the 1970s. And they wrote back and said, yeah, that's 50 years ago. And that's historical fiction. And I'm like, get fucked. I mean, honestly, it just doesn't seem like 50 years ago, does it?
It's just such a rude thing to point out, isn't
It's
it?
so rude.
Gosh. Yeah. Some things you just don't do the maths for, okay?
No, we don't need to hear that. Just keep
enough.
that thought to yourself. That's an inside thought.
No, I would not like to.
Absolutely. So anyway, I kind of...
Hamlet's author. Oh, that's so funny. And I will try and recollect, gather my cool. Okay. So historical 70s.
Okay. Yes.
You made that time period and that place come alive so beautifully and vividly. I was talking to some of our beautiful members, and it really it hit home for a lot of them. There was a lot of familiarity with maybe the turns of phrases that were used, or just the dynamics that were had with families. And for myself, I'm a 90s baby, so I didn't know the 70s, and I grew up in WA, so I didn't know Queensland, but I felt like I do. Like I feel like I do now.
That is the highest praise. Thank you so much.
How did you do it? How did you decide what to include, what to leave out, and weave it all together?
Yeah, I guess at heart I have this idea that the 70s are kind of badly done by as a decade, because let me just tell you, Lisa, it's not the best taste decade that you've ever seen in your life. Like, I'll tell you, my bedroom wall, I had an enormous poster above my bed of Daryl Braithwaite in a blue satin shirt, unbuttoned down to his belly button, with all this chest hair, like fussing out. And like the whole decade is really the land that taste forgot. And I think people kind of glamorize the 60s because it's all flower power and grooviness and LSD and all this. And the 80s is all sharp kind of business clothes and,
power shoulders.
Yeah, sharp power dressing and all that kind of thing. And the 70s, let's face it, it's really not the most attractive time in the world. So, and I am an absolutely unreconstructed dag. So I kind of really lean to the daggy clothes and the daggy music and just kind of leaning into that kind of style. So I wanted to capture a lot of the things that I had forgotten, like playing elastics and knuckles and the kind of music and the kind of clothes and just getting on your bike and on a Saturday and riding off all day and not coming back till it's dark and no one thinking to ask where you've been or what you've been up to or knowing where you were. Like all that kind of thing that we used to do in the 70s.
No one's watching you on Find My iPhone, checking where you are on Snap Maps the whole time.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Oh, and I would like to drill into sort of some of the characters now. So we have Andy's mum, Val. I think she may be my favorite character in a way.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite character? It doesn't have to be because, I mean, Val's got some, some tricky things to like about her. So it doesn't have to be because, it's the most likable character. But do you have someone who is your favorite? And was that your favorite character to write?
Well, I really liked all the characters, but I'm extremely pleased that you picked Val because I often get two different approaches to Val. I had a woman last week say to me, she was terrible. She hated her, and Andy should have been removed from that from her. And I had another woman only a couple of days later said, I would have loved to have a mum like Val to teach me how to be fierce.
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought those two perspectives, I love having those two perspectives on the one person. Like to me, that's exactly what I'm aiming for. I really don't like characters being black and white because people aren't black and white, Sometimes people do good things and sometimes they do bad things. And I tried to walk that line, even Steve, who is kind of ends up being
great.
ends up being a little bit heroic. I wanted to show that he also has a dark side. Like I want everybody to have both sides. So when I get kind of those wildly varying opinions on a character, I feel like I've done a good job, like I've done what I've set out to do.
Yeah. Because she was such a dynamic character, wasn't she? In that because you had Andy's perspective, you could see how she viewed her as the most fabulous, elegant woman.
But
And then you
was she though? Was she though, Lisa?
but she kind of sees her that way sometimes, like
Yeah.
in her eyes, you know, in her daughter's eyes. And I kind of relate to that because I definitely thought my mum was the best singer in the world when I was young, and I thought she had the best fashion sense. And if you look back at photos of me, she didn't. It's patterned bike shorts, a lot of them, and we're matching. So,
Wow.
you know, but I loved that we got to see that, but then we also got to see sort of the crassness of Val, and we got to see how she showed love at times, but often didn't say much with love to Andy. And then we had, but she was always there. And then we had obviously the sort of more absent father who she idolizes. And I thought that was really interesting how we have so much sympathy for the characters, even while seeing their flaws. Did you ever have the dad be more in the picture? I'm forgetting his name, sorry.
It's Eddie, but
Eddie.
you know, part of the thing I was trying to do is show that kids are harder on the parent that sticks around because they're the parent that sticks around. You see them more. And the parent that takes off, it's very easy to glamorize them because they're not around doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was really part of what I was trying to do, and showing that all of these people, I think there's a moment in childhood where you suddenly come to the awareness that your parents are people, not just parents, you know, that have their own kind of, you know, their own world going on and their own failures and their own, you know, most people, and this is the case in Andy's family. There are certainly evil people in the world. Please don't. I'm not saying that there aren't, but the vast majority of people who fail because they don't know how, or they haven't got the resources or the equipment, or they don't know what they're doing, or they're just, it's not a failure because they're evil. It's just a failure because they're a bit hopeless. And
it's their first time doing life as well.
Yeah, that's right. It's their first time doing life. Like, it's not that their intentions were bad. They just aren't very good at it. And that's really something I wanted to capture in this family. People, it's like, oh my God. And, you know, our parents, again, you're a fair bit younger than me, but when I was a kid, our parents had children really young, like frighteningly young. And that was just considered normal. These people with very little experience in the world kind of being thrown in the deep end. And I feel for them. I think they made so many mistakes, and it not from lack of wanting to do better, just from lack of having the ability to do better, I guess.
And that empathy that you have there, that shines through in Andy's voice so beautifully as well, especially because how on earth did you do it? What is it? I've been saying it's first person narration. Am I
Yeah,
right?
first person. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because you have this brilliantly fluid narrator who is Andy at 11, 12, and then you have Andy as an adult. But how did you do it?
It makes me so happy that you spotted this voice, because this novel was actually embarrassingly easy to write. It was the easiest of all the books I've ever written, to tell you the truth. The only thing that was hard about it was finding that a voice, because I wanted it to be exactly as you said, fluid. I didn't want to have like one chapter young Andy, one chapter old. I didn't want any even white space gaps between the perspectives. I wanted it to be almost seamless, like even in the same paragraph, moving from that child eye view to the older eye view and then back, because I wanted the whole story to have a kind of a dream-like, nostalgic Vaseline on the lens kind of quality, without sort of stopping and starting in a jerky way. So it took me about 2 or 3 or 4 goes to get that voice, because, you know, the first ones I tried were too child. She was just a child the whole time, and that gave an inability to have any context. And the second one I tried was too old, like everything was in past tense, and that kind of made it seem distant and uninvolving because it was happening such a long time ago. And so I also wanted both examples of both 12-year-old Andy and old Andy to be wrong sometimes. Like sometimes neither of their recollections are quite correct, because memory is like that. It kind of overlays itself. So once I found the voice, which did take a good few months and a good few attempts, the rest of it was actually pretty easy, because I felt like once I had the people and the voice, I just had to let them kind of be true to themselves.
Yeah. Did you ever have a draft or a version where there was other people's narration, or was it always
No,
Andy?
I kind of just wanted it because I didn't want any other perspectives, because I wanted the reader to be the other perspective. Like,
Yeah.
like when Andy is going on about how glamorous her mother is, and the reader is seeing this woman who smokes 2 packs a day and swears like a trooper and keeps her teeth in a glass on the bedside table. I want the reader to go, but is she glamorous? Really? Is that like, I want that other perspective to always be the reader's. And I love the idea of the reader going, don't do that, Andy. No, 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 don't do that. Like, you're wrong about that. You're wrong about that. Like the scene where Andy goes to, tries to find her father, and she finds this pregnant girl in a house. And, she's kind of going on this, having this interaction with this girl. I want the reader to be like 3 steps ahead of Andy about what's going on. And so I try and always leave room for that. I want another perspective there, but I want it to be the reader's perspective.
Yeah, that's so good, because you insert yourself as the reader.
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, that's kind of the goal.
And I'd love to also, just because I feel like it was part of the way that you did the narrative style, when I spoke about Steve with everyone said, I thought he was a predator. I thought something sus about him. He was going to be so bad, and then he wasn't.
Yeah.
He was the nicest. It was, well, not nice, but cared for Andy.
Yeah.
Quite harmless to Andy. But it was so well done, because you had Andy's perception of him.
Yes.
Throughout. I loved that. And I loved seeing Steve's character not change in his actions at all, but change to me as the reader, who was sitting in the novel next to Andy.
Yes.
See him change, even though he didn't.
Yes, I'm so lovely that you saw that coming. Part of something that I've always believed is danger, especially to children, is where you least expect it rather than where you most expect it. And I feel like we spend a lot of time looking in the wrong direction when it comes to who's most likely to hurt children. Yes. And I think this was an example where it could have been kind of the typical story that you see, like that cliched story of what happens. And I didn't want it to be that. I wanted her to be, well, obviously she's hurt. Part of the problem with my stories, and I know this, Lisa, and I know this is where sometimes I have a limited readership, is that I don't do really, like, there's no serial killers or, nuclear devices that need disarming, or, people buried in plots that have to be rescued before their air runs out. Like, I don't do.
Well, obviously, I'm the most important reader, and that's my least favorite type of one. So you're fine.
Yeah. So look, there are lots of people who do those kind of stories, but I'm really looking for things that emotionally affect us, because whereas very few of us, and in fact, I would be interested if there was. I wouldn't think that there was anyone in your room right now who had been the victim of a serial killer. Very unlikely, right? But we've all been emotionally devastated by someone that we thought we trusted. Yeah. And so this is the kind of thing I really want to get to, this idea of these blows that come from where you least expect it. Yeah, that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. And you, as you say, you have the emotion there with the sort of, because you're so deep in the characters lived experience. How did you balance that humor? Because I want to tell people that Tenderfoot is a funny novel because it is. It made me laugh and it made me smile, but at the same time, there is that heaviness that runs through it, and there is those serious themes that are explored. How do you balance that? Is that a fine line as well?
Look, tone is something that I think a lot about, and probably it's a close battle, but it's possible that my favorite filmmakers are the Coen brothers. I love almost all the Coen brothers movies, and I think it was Ethan Coen who said, directing a film is an exercise in tone management. And I think a lot about that. I think that if the whole book is sad or the whole book is happy, either case, you don't really feel it because it becomes the same. And in cases like that, cases in changes of emotion, you only really feel it when it's a change. So I feel something is sadder and happier if you break it up with the other emotion so that you can sense a change. Does that make sense? Like if it's all the same, like I wrote a book a few years ago, Our Tiny Useless Hearts, which is still one of my favorites, but now I know that that book is too, I know this sounds ridiculous, too funny. It's too funny. And so it's not funny because it's all on the same level of funny. There are too many jokes and nothing comes as a surprise. Like now when I'm advising people who have written funny manuscripts, I tell them take it every sixth joke or every fifth joke. Like because when there's no joke, and then there's joke, it hits harder and people think it's funnier than joke, which just becomes monotonous and lacks any kind of impact. So I think that's something that I've really changed over the years where I've learnt how to break up that kind of tone so that things do alternate. And I think that makes it's both sadder and happier, if that makes sense.
It's that emotional complexity, isn't it? It just you tapped in. Yeah. Would you ever write something? I know that you said you do write across different genres, but like, would you ever write anything that was like sci-fi? Is there a sci-fi novel in you?
I would really love to. Yeah, I genuinely do read everything. So I hope I live long enough to give everything a try, really. I'd have to have a really good story, but sometimes, stories can appear when you least expect it. So yeah, I would like to try everything.
Do you have a physical space where you keep all your story ideas? Like, do you have a hard drive or a journal that's
No, I'm really just working on the one, and then hopefully by the time I finish, something else will pop up. So it's not like I've got a whole lot queued up. In fact, I find ideas the hardest thing to do, which is why I'm so grateful to my publisher for coming up with this one. Anyone in your audience, anyone in your group has a good idea for a novel, hit me up.
Please. We'll create a PowerPoint.
I find that's the idea is the hardest part, really.
Yeah. And so it's the idea, not the character. Do you ever have like a character that comes first, like a person who just presents themselves to you?
No, it's the type of story. It's this one. This one started with, okay, 70s Queensland, greyhound racing, coming of age. And then I think about the character from there.
Yeah. And you obviously tackled some heavy themes with the greyhound racing and the ethics there, and then also the ethics of gambling. I think probably, I mean, everything was brilliant, but I feel like one of the quotes that's going to be touted back at you, I'm sorry, is going to be that, gambling was our religion and the TAB our church. It just trips off the tongue. So
thank you for remembering that. It's really lovely, Lisa. Thank you.
And how did you navigate the ethics of that? Because I felt quite a lot of compassion, but also a degree of warmth for the community that was able to exist because of those places that wouldn't exist now.
Yes. So you're right. That's a slightly difficult thing because I think I expressed the whole idea of it and the cost of it to people and animals as clearly as I can. But at least back then, if you had to find a small silver lining, there was that sense of community. So when I worked at a TAB, we knew everybody's names, everybody had a place to come. You were always allowed in to, lean on the bench and spend your, pension and go home and eat, nothing. But there was a sense of social cohesion as a very, very slight benefit to this arrangement. Now there's not even that. Now people will lose their pension and their salary and their homes playing on their phone by themselves.
Yeah, they won't have anyone smile at them and call them by their name and ask how their grandchild's doing.
And that was a slim enough, silver lining as it is, in no way balancing out the enormous harm that it does, but it was some degree of something. And now there's not even that. So there's nothing to be said from this like donation to rich people that we keep making.
Yeah, exactly. And so we normally go right into spoilers, but I do know one or two people who haven't got around to finishing the book. They're near the end, so I don't want to go into that ending too heavily. Did you always know that you were going to have to include, I think maybe you know where I mean when I say ending, sort of the section where there is the specific examples?
I never know. I never know. No. I never know what I'm doing till I get to the end. And then you know what happens? I get to almost the end and then I go, oh, I get it. And then I have to go back and think I have to just go back and set up that ending. And then I go back and it's already there.
Yeah. I love this idea that writing for a lot of writers seems to be that it's just digging away, moving away all the rest of the dirt to dig out what's there, because it's waiting for you, even though it wouldn't be waiting for anyone else.
But the biggest challenge I have, and I've always had, Lisa, is getting out of my own way. I spent a lot of years as a research molecular biologist, and I'm very accustomed, at the beginning of my career specifically, I was really accustomed to attacking everything with this logical and intellectual approach and over intellectualizing every single problem that I had. And that will not do. In the world of art and fiction writing, it will not do. It's about finding truths that are in a different part of your brain than that front calculator part of your brain. And the biggest lesson that I've had to learn in writing fiction is getting out of my own way and stopping overthinking and stopping thinking that I'm in charge of anything. I'm not in charge of anything. And trying to resurrect a sense of play again and thinking about what's fun about this and following my enthusiasms and just trying to find a different kind of intelligence than the intelligence that I used to bring in science. So I have a Bachelor of Science in protein chemistry, really, and I have a PhD in creative arts. And so I feel that's both sides of my brain covered. And if I can switch off that very scientific front brain and try and be more adventurous, playful, enthusiastic, find that sense of inevitability, as you say, it's there. We know more than we think we do. We're not so in charge as we think we are, is what I think.
You do have that that whole debate of like science and logic versus creativity and art. You have those two warring within you. Do you think that gives you an extra challenge because you're trying to fight the two? Or would you say that they do work in tandem? No,
well, I do think they work in tandem, especially the sciences. A lot of the sciences, to be a good scientist, it takes more creativity than people realize. Because before you can design an experiment to test something, you have to envisage what you're testing. You have to have a eureka moment where you think maybe it's this. You have to have a leap of experimentation or a leap of the imagination. What maybe it's this. Now, how can I design an experiment to see if it is that or not? So that first half of the scientific process is enormously creative, and great scientists have always been very creative. So I think in general terms, the way we put people in we love putting people in little boxes. You're either this or you're this.
Yeah.
But I really think we are, as in most parts of being human, we are a mix of both. And other, like, I don't use my intuitive creative sense when I'm doing my banking. I'm doing my bath. I completely am living in my other brain. I think we contain multitudes, and it's all there for us to access. But trying to bring a scientific brain to a creative problem, I don't think is the best approach. I think we have an enormous sense of intuition and unconscious that we don't even begin to tap on a daily basis.
Yeah. I'm just aware of it subconsciously sometimes, little moments where we go, oh.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of something that writers and scientists are familiar with, deadlines, we're nearly at time. This has been absolutely wonderful. I just looked at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It feels like it's been 10 minutes.
I know, it has. So I have sort of 3 things I normally wrap up with. I ask what your plans are next, if you can tell us, for you to read out a passage if you're willing, and for audience questions. So are you able to tell us what's next? Is there something next, or are you just enjoying talking about Tenderfoot?
No, I've started another novel, and this is definitely historical fiction. It's back in the 1950s, but definitely. It's about science, actually. It's a science novel. It's about the life of a female scientist. So that's what I'm reading.
Yeah, fantastic. And when should we expect that one?
I'm only just at the beginning stages, so
give me time.
That'll be a couple of years, I reckon.
We'll keep our eyes peeled for it. Thank you so much, Toni. Everyone, start thinking of your questions if I haven't asked them, and we will move to that section after Toni reads out a passage.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
What would you like me to read? Anything?
Anything, I reckon. Yeah. As I say, most people have already read it, so you're pretty safe. Yeah.
Like just a paragraph or a little bit, or
a couple pages, if that's okay.
What if I just read the kind of the prologue? How would that be?
Perfect.
Okay. Wait for the boxes to open. Wait for the race to begin. Wait, and your greyhound will cease to be the dog you know and become an entirely different kind of animal. You can see it happen if you look. For some, it happens at the beginning of a race, as soon as they jump. The instant the doors to the boxes lift and they are released from their whining, pawing anticipation, these dogs transform. For others, it takes longer. It might happen on the back straight when the field is settled in. For dogs like that, the beginning is a lark. They love running, and their friends around them are all running, so they join in. They have no more motivation than that. Until all at once the race becomes something else. They become something else, something unrecognizable that no longer notices the barracking of the crowd or the other dogs beside them. They have one thought. They want to catch the bunny and kill it. The thought of killing consumes them. They want to hold that bunny between their teeth and tear its chest with their claws. They would give their life for that moment of fresh blood. They can already taste the blood. They can smell it. They are driven, obsessive. They have no fear. Once I knew a dog that dislocated his hind leg by bolting at speed through the slender gaps in a paling fence to reach a cat on the other side. In that sickening moment, he felt no pain. His own safety meant nothing compared with his longing to pull out the cat's entrails and yank tufts of its fur with its teeth and bury his snout inside the viscous, warm cavities of its body. During a race, the dogs never catch the bunny because it's not real. Old-timers call it a tin hare, this lure covered in fur on a steel cable pulled by an electric motor around a track or up a straight. It's a trick played by humans to deceive the dogs into running. There is no heart within that metal body, no blood, but the dog doesn't know that. It looks like a bunny. It bolts like a bunny. That's enough for the dog. Even now, I have memories of standing on the fence in front of the betting ring among all the other punters, gripping their form guides, craning their necks. I can still feel the cold metal rail in my hands. And I remember all of our dogs and their sweet faces, their habits and their temperaments. Some were fawn, some were black, and some were brindle. Each of them had doe eyes and powerful haunches, and a few had the softest ears. They brought me so much joy as they ran for our amusement and profit, chasing the bunny until it seemed their chests would burst. This is what I learned from all those years of watching racing greyhounds. They are the gentlest, most loving of animals. They are lazy on the whole, usually patient, almost always calm. Yet I also learned that it's possible to start off lighthearted and uncommitted to a task, but midway become possessed by desperate wants. Only when it's too late do you discover that the thing you would have died for was made of tin without a heart. It was not worthy of your sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, I loved that. Like that, I don't know, foreshadowing, that moment of foreshadowing where it was, isn't worth your sacrifice. Oh, so good. So
Thank
good.
you so much.
That was one that got tabbed. Actually, my poor book, you probably won't be able to tell. It looks like a porcupine's grown out the side of it. There's so many tabs.
How kind you are, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Toni. That was a wonderful reading. Alrighty. Could I please have a massive round of applause for Toni?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a joy.
It's been a pleasure, Lisa. Thank you.
And I've got about, a page and a half of questions I didn't even ask.
Are you trying to tell me I talk too much? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, I just think that maybe we should make the time slots 2 hours.
Absolutely.
Only logical conclusion I can reach. Thank you so, so much for joining us. It has been a joy to read Tenderfoot and be able to share it with these readers, and it was so lovely to speak with you. For your next one, maybe you can tee it up with a holiday to Albany.
That would be great. I would be completely up for that. I'll sleep on John's couch, and I'll see you all soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Toni.
Thank you. Bye.